Sure. Thanks to everybody that came out Saturday. I hope everybody's dried out and enjoyed themselves. It was a pretty cool atmosphere, and the weather I know was a little rough, but I thought both the fans and the team grew stronger as the weather got worse. We have a tremendous challenge, obviously, this week going on the road to Miami. Before we get into all that, I just do want to say I don't know if you all saw, but Coach McDermott with the Buffalo Bills gave Logan Thomas a game ball after the game the other day, and just want to make sure Logan and his family know that everybody here with the Hokie family's got him and his family in our thoughts and prayers as they go through a really tough time. That was a pretty neat move and neat reaction, even maybe more importantly by his teammates. All that being said, we know we have a tremendous challenge as a football team this week to go on the road and play a very athletic, well-coached, and undefeated Miami team at their place. We had a good workout yesterday, and kids are obviously off today, and hopefully we'll have a great week of preparation.
Raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone. Questions for Coach?
Sort of as a side light here, do you guys have like a dehydration protocol to try to combat that? Like, is there something you try to do as far as making sure guys get extra hydration for a game like this, considering I know guys getting cramps and stuff?
Yeah, you're talking about the weather and the heat and stuff. Yeah, that's the best way to combat it. There's not a lot of, obviously we can't simulate that here now this time of year, but I think we do a really good job between our strength staff and our medical staff of driving that point home of hydrating and preventative maintenance, I guess you could say, and that'll obviously be a focal point this week.
Raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone.
You've talked about ball security and protecting the football a lot. It seems more than maybe most coaches do, putting an emphasis on that. Is there something from your past that there's a reason that is such a high priority with you in this team? Well,
I think the biggest thing is, statistically speaking, it's still one of the biggest determining factors of winning and losing games. Last year for us here was kind of an anomaly in terms of taking care of the ball and still winning games, or not taking care of the ball. And if you look at the games we won versus the games we lost, there was a huge discrepancy. So, we have always taught the techniques. We've always done the drill work. I think maybe just during team emphasis, we've done a better job of emphasizing it, and they seem to understand it more. Maybe there's a realization of how important it is. Maybe there's some pride in taking care of the ball that maybe was a little bit lacking. I'm not positive. I have to have the players answer that one. But the biggest thing is, to me, it's one of the most important statistics. And obviously, this week we're playing a team that, if I'm not mistaken, leads the ACC in turnover margin, and has done a fantastic job taking the ball away and taking care of the football on the offensive side.
I was going to ask about Miami. They have that turnover chain or whatever it is. Did you seem to think that they kind of get really up whenever they get a turnover? It kind of boosts them a little bit.
Well, they don't on the coaches' cut-ups, on the coaches' films. They don't have the turnover chain. It's only on the TV copies, and I haven't seen very many TV copies. I've heard some people talk about it and that sort of stuff. By all accounts, this would be a third-person account, but by all accounts, they do get excited about it, and something that they take pride in. Obviously, they understand the importance of taking care of the ball and taking the ball away. Probably one of the biggest reasons they're in the situation they're in right now.
I know when you were talking about Clemson, you were talking about how it's kind of diffusing a bomb in terms of the fact that if you make one mistake, they can really make you pay for it. I know Miami recruits really well, and they have a ton of talent on that side of the ball. Is that kind of a similar situation?
Well, I think so. You look at the North Carolina game last week with Miami, and it's back and forth, and then all of a sudden, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the first play of the second half, they throw a post for a huge 75-yard touchdown pass. I mean, just like that, they can flip the field or make a big play, and they've got they look like what Miami should look like. I mean, they're big and athletic and well coached, and certainly have guys that can make big plays on you if you're not careful.
I know you love these questions, especially 5 days before the game, but Nijman, how was he after the game Saturday and yesterday with practice?
Yeah, I would say that it's kind of like Steven. It's just going to be a day-to-day thing. We're hopeful that he'll be able to go. Kind of like Steve. We just he'll probably work out some and rest some and work out some and rest some and see how it goes.
Kind of piggybacking off that, how do you think Parker kind of filled in there when he had to go in there in the second quarter?
Oh, I thought he did a good job. I really did. I was proud of him. It's nice to have him back. We haven't talked much about him, just all the things that he's been through to try and get back for this season. It's been a long journey for him, and it was nice, obviously, that he's back, and then secondly, when called upon, he was ready to go out there and play. So awfully happy. He's obviously a guy we trust.
I know the weather probably played a factor into decisions with field goals later in the game. That first drive, I think it would have been maybe a 40-yarder, opted to go for it on 4th and 5, 4th and 4. What was the thought process there? Is that wanting to try to limit anything long with Joey at this point?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'd read too much into my thoughts on our kicker in terms of our decisions. We're in that kind of area where we haven't been incredibly efficient kicking field goals from those longer areas, and we have a 4th and manageable situation. I just felt like our defense was, we've got a lot of confidence in our defense. Sometimes you can be a little bit more aggressive in those situations when you're playing well on defense, or you feel good about your defense. So I'd say it was a combination of several of those things that we felt just better going for it.
Did you get the look you wanted? It looked like the play was there in the throws.
Oh, Andy, I wish I could tell you which play you're talking about. I know there was one that got batted down. I don't think that's the one you're talking about. That was going to be a big play if it hadn't gotten batted down. The defensive lineman made a good play. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we had a decent look there. I think Josh was being kind of careful with the football, trying to, which I'm okay with. But I think, just the ball in a little bit different spot, I think we'd had a shot.
Since this team has lost Mark Walton, how do you think that they've kind of replaced him in the running game, and do you think that they're operating at the same efficiency?
Well, anytime you lose a player of that caliber, it makes it difficult. I think they've done a fantastic job of picking up the slack. That's all that being said, he was, I would say, the best player they had. I mean, he was really electric, and they went out of their way to find different ways to get him the football, both in the passing game and the running game. But I've seen them kind of collectively pick up the slack through their tight end, they've got some young wide receivers that are out there playing, through their slot wide receiver who's a heck of a good player, and then obviously through the running game they even put another guy back there towards the end of the game last week. So I see them kind of as a group doing a pretty good job of filling in for him.
Anybody else for Coach?
Hey, Coach, you guys obviously were able to run the ball a little more efficiently the other night. I know the weather dictated some of that. Is that part of the game starting to look more like you would like for it to, or would you say still a work in progress?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like the whole football team is. We're always nitpicking and trying to find different ways for us to give ourselves a chance to have success. I'd like to make the safety in the hole miss a few more times if we could. We've been able to get the ball to the unblocked hat at times, and at times. On Saturday, we got the ball. Eventually, you're going to run into somebody that we can't block, and we were able to get the ball to that person on a little bit more consistent basis last week. I'd like to see us make some bigger plays out of those. But yeah, I mean, I like I like where we're headed. Certainly the weather was a factor in terms of managing the game, but you know, I'd put the running game in there with like everything else. I mean, continuing to try and improve and get a little better.
It's always tough for us to sort of judge offensive line play, but how do you feel like Wyatt Taylor's played this year?
Well, I would put that whole group, we kind of put that whole group along with everybody else on alert after the North Carolina game. I mean, we made no bones about it. We were not pleased, Wyatt included, and then I'm not singling Wyatt out, but just in general, as a group, it was unsatisfactory 2 weeks ago. And last week was much better. Wyatt would be included in that. I think he had his best game last week. He answered the challenge, which is certainly what you want. And hopefully, as a group and Wyatt individually, they'll continue to accept the challenge.
What was so good about Wyatt's performance? What was he doing?
We just played harder. We played tougher. And in my estimation, we did not do that 2 weeks ago at any position.
How did you feel about Osterloh jumping in for Nijman at that left tackle spot? I know it was only, Parker's second game plan this year, I guess.
Well, I thought he did a good job. You know, obviously we trust him. He's, the first guy we grabbed to go throw in there. It's good to have him back. He's been through a lot in terms of just trying to get healthy and get back out there on the field. But to credit to him, he was prepared in terms of when he was healthy enough to start practicing again. You know, he didn't have huge strides to make in terms of his conditioning level and those sorts of things. So I thought he played well.
Would you consider him sort of your unofficial sixth offensive lineman? In other words, could he play at guard too?
Certainly.
That's something specific for him to play tackle?
No, he certainly can play guard. Absolutely.
Coach, there was a significant difference when the starting defensive line came in, the backup, or the starting defensive line came out and the backups came in. Are you concerned about your backup defensive line at all going into some tougher games coming up?
Well, I would say probably the same as I've been all year. You know, I mean, those first two guys are really, really good players, and we're continuing to try and grow up some guys that, you know, that haven't played at that same level. You know, Hewitt's made the most strides and is closest to those other guys, but you know, that's where we're at.
Anybody else for Coach? All right, we'll have some student athletes tomorrow for you all. Stay tuned for the schedule.
Thank y'all.